Americans and the world brace for global impact of Trump's tariff revival. Welcome to TVAI, your trusted source for global insight, real news, and sharp analysis, without noise. As the 2024 presidential race accelerates, former President Donald Trump has once again placed aggressive trade policy at the center of his campaign platform. Promising sweeping tariffs on imports, particularly from China, Trump argues that the United States must shield itself from what he calls economic aggression and unfair competition. While his base rallies behind the rhetoric of economic nationalism, voices of concern are echoing not just across America, but around the globe. The revival of Trump's tariff agenda comes at a fragile time for the global economy. As inflationary pressures, supply chain bottlenecks, and geopolitical tensions remain unresolved in the post-pandemic world, the potential reintroduction of large-scale U.S. tariffs is prompting alarm among allies, competitors, and financial markets alike. In the United States, the memory of the 2018 to 2019 trade war with China remains vivid. During that period, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on over $350 billion in Chinese goods. In retaliation, Beijing levied duties on $110 billion in American exports. The result was a trade standoff that disrupted industries, strained diplomatic ties, and left American consumers paying higher prices. Economists from the Brookings Institution and MIT estimate that the trade war cost the U.S. economy nearly 300,000 jobs while failing to achieve a substantial reduction in the trade deficit. Instead, American firms were left to navigate rising input costs and limited access to critical components, especially in sectors like electronics, machinery, and automotive manufacturing. Now, as Trump vows to take the policy even further, proposing a universal baseline tariff of 10% on all imports and 60% or more on Chinese goods, concerns are mounting across multiple fronts. Domestically, major U.S. corporations, trade associations, and small businesses warn that these measures will again have a regressive impact on economic stability. Retailers fear rising costs on consumer goods, while manufacturers anticipate tighter margins due to pricier raw materials. In many cases, companies would be forced to pass those costs on to customers. This is not just a policy proposal, it's a direct hit to the supply chain, said Linda Thompson, an executive at a major logistics firm based in Illinois. Tariffs of this magnitude could reintroduce chaos to the distribution of everything from tech products to food. The American Farm Bureau Federation has also voiced early concern. Many agricultural exporters had just begun to rebuild relationships with overseas buyers after suffering heavy losses during the previous tariff cycle. A new round of trade hostilities could destroy those fragile gains. Meanwhile, Wall Street has responded with unease. Financial analysts warn that aggressive tariff plans could rattle investor confidence and trigger volatility in both U.S. and international markets. According to a report from Goldman Sachs, a sweeping tariff regime could lower GDP growth by as much as 0.7% over 2 years, even under optimistic scenarios. Outside the U.S., global reactions have ranged from cautious diplomacy to outright warnings. The European Union has indicated it would respond proportionally to any unilateral U.S. trade actions. China, still reeling from its own internal economic challenges, is watching the developments closely and has hinted at strategic countermeasures that could include export controls and deepen trade ties with non-Western partners. The global trading system is already under pressure, said Dr. Klaus Weber, an international trade expert based in Geneva. A renewed American tariff campaign could weaken the World Trade Organization, disrupt commodity flows, and force countries to form alternative blocs, something that might accelerate the fragmentation of global commerce. Indeed, one of the greatest risks associated with a return to widespread tariffs is the erosion of multilateral trade cooperation. After decades of relative stability driven by trade agreements like NAFTA, now USMCA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, from which Trump withdrew, and WTO frameworks, there is growing concern that tit-for-tat measures could revive economic nationalism worldwide. In developing countries, especially those in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, such policies could derail export-driven development strategies. Many of these economies rely on access to U.S. markets for their manufacturing and agricultural sectors. If America raises barriers, these nations could face unemployment surges, capital flight, and political instability. The diplomatic implications are also sobering. Experts warn that the reimposition of tariffs could alienate allies just as global coordination is needed to address shared challenges like climate change, migration, and technological regulation. There's a price to unilateralism, said Anne-Marie Dubois, former trade negotiator for the EU. If the US ignores its partners and enacts sweeping tariffs, the message is clear. America first, everyone else last. That sentiment can fracture alliances in ways that take decades to repair. At home, Trump's political opponents are seizing on these concerns. Democratic candidates have criticized his trade strategy as short-sighted and damaging. President Joe Biden, though no stranger to protectionist policies himself, has pursued a more nuanced approach, enforcing certain tariffs while also working with allies on broader supply chain resilience and green industrial policy. Still, within the Republican Party, Trump's tariff platform retains significant traction. Many GOP voters view tariffs as a symbol of strength, proof that a leader is willing to confront economic adversaries without compromise. Among conservative commentators, tariffs are often framed not just as economic tools, but as cultural statements against globalization and elite consensus. Yet even some traditional conservatives are raising red flags. The editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, long a bastion of conservative economic thought, recently warned that Trump's tariff plan could amount to a massive tax increase on American families and risk dragging the country into a costly trade war at the worst possible time. Within this complex political and economic landscape, the debate over tariffs is far from settled. It is a battle over national identity, economic strategy, and America's role in the world. For voters, the issue is both deeply personal and inherently abstract, about the price of groceries, but also about geopolitical alignment and long-term prosperity. Polls show that while many Americans support fair trade and protecting U.S. jobs, fewer endorse blanket tariffs as a solution. A recent Pew Research Center study found that 64% of Americans believe international trade is good for the economy, but only 38% support the use of tariffs as a regular policy tool. As November 2024 draws closer, voters will be forced to grapple with competing visions. Is America stronger when it closes ranks and goes it alone? Or does leadership mean engaging with the world, even when it's difficult? In this globalized era, protectionist measures can no longer be seen in isolation. Tariffs are not simply taxes. They are geopolitical signals, economic weapons, and reflections of national values. The world is watching, and so are American voters.